Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
I'm excited for this episode. You don't know why, but we have discussed this a little bit on the phone a few weeks ago. Body count.
Oh, yeah.
And not the Ice-T rock band that is famous for the song Cop Killer.
Yep, I was going to go right to that. Early 90s.
And I'm not talking body count like you kill multiple people. When I say body count, I mean how many people have you fucked? That's what I'm talking about. Because I don't know how it got to be so prolific in my Facebook video feed, but they are spoon-feeding me so many podcast clips of different shows where people are discussing body count with females that predominantly it seems these are OnlyFans models and shit.
Okay.
But basically the premise is that the higher a woman's body count, the less likely she is to find true love or long-term relationship success.
So a psychoanalysis of it. Okay.
Kind of. And the reason this drives me fucking nuts is I have seen a bunch of articles related to it that seem like they're coming from a feminist point of view and a leftist point of view that is trying to make men feel like shit for slut-shaming or holding women to this standard while saying simultaneously, well, but men can fuck around and they get a pat on the back and it's a trophy for them. And honestly, I don't know any guy that would have fucked a ton of chicks that is bragging about it in this day and age.
Do you think because they outgrew it? You know what I mean? Or is that still... I don't even know if that's still a thing in younger men's circles, if they would at all. And most of them would lie about the number anyway. Can you even trust it?
Yeah, well, one thing is they're like, you know, you never know a girl's real body count because she'll say that it's less than it is.
Oh, yeah.
Men will say it's more than it is.
Yeah, you divide men's by 5 and multiply hers by 5, right? I mean, that was supposed to...
I think it's by 3.
Or maybe that's what it was, right? Yeah.
And another thing that I keep seeing, and there's studies, you can Google this shit, that state that people with higher body counts, now this is men or women, this is gender non-specific, the higher your body count, the higher the likelihood that you are to be a cheater. Because you search for short-term satisfaction, instant gratification. You have looser morals. So if you're down to fuck, so to speak, and you're in a relationship and you're not getting your needs met, you'll go and do it. Right. Because you have this mindset, I need to get that. I want some dick. And it's funny because there was this video of this chick on Instagram probably a month or two ago. And she got broken up with or whatever happened. A relationship ended. A long-term relationship ended. And she put this on the internet that she went overseas on a vacation. And during the span of, I think, 2 weeks, she fucked 22 different people.
What?
I'm assuming all men. But the last video in the series was stating, yeah, that's how many I bagged on this trip. So it's probably going to stay at 22 unless, you know, I score with somebody in the bathroom at the airport or maybe on the plane. Like, she was fucking proud about this shit.
That's a condition.
Yeah, that's fucked. I mean, holy Christ, are you giving up any sort of desirability in my eyes? And I think in a lot of people's, if you're slutting around that much, even if you use condoms with everybody, think about this. You meet a girl and she tells you the truth, right? And some would say, you don't need to worry about body count. It's not important. But you meet a girl and you hit it off and she tells you how many men she's been with. And part of it is, in the span of 2 weeks, while overseas, she fucked 22 other people.
God damn!
Does that not instantly make her completely undesirable to you?
Yeah, it would give me pause. It would. I don't know how. You know, it'd be one of those things if you find out after the fact, like years later, like, oh, in your 20s, you did something crazy like that. But even then, I think you'd still be wondering, okay, you know, is this... And let me go back to something here. I think a high number for either gender would put people to pause, right? Yeah. I mean, realistically, it should, right? The fact that there's this side of it trying to say, oh, you're trying to slut shame or this and that, and it's okay for guys to do it. I don't think that's the case anymore, like you were getting at. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think people brag about that stuff like they used to. And maybe it's some form of taking power back, but I still think it's crude.
Well, honestly, what my number is, I'm not going to get into it. It's double digits.
Okay.
It's less than 25. We'll leave it at that.
24 then. All right.
I'm not proud of it. I don't like that it's that high. I wish that it wasn't that high. I wish I could go back and at a certain point have been with somebody and stayed with them, been successful in long-term permanent pairing, coupling up like that, maybe getting married, and not have this number of people afterwards that, you know, a handful of them are basically fucking meaningless, and it's a mistake in hindsight. But like you're saying, to my point about a higher number being less desirable, when you buy a car, do you want low mileage or high mileage?
Right.
How many fucking previous owners do you want that car to have had?
Are you saying you'd want a rental versus a one or two owner car, right? That's another thing too, is what kind of miles were though? 75,000 miles with 3 owners, or a rental and that was being used and abused,
driven like it was stolen, nobody gave a shit about it.
People ramming shit into it left and right, oversight.
Well, you think about that, like say a chick told you she had 50 partners. That's so much.
Multiply that by 3.
Yeah, no, maybe not. But it's basically, I thought of this today when I was at work. I'm like, being with a chick who's had like 50 plus partners is like being the youngest kid in an Irish Catholic family, and you're like the 8th person to wear that hand-me-down polo shirt.
Okay.
How's that for an analogy?
It's a stretch, but I get it. Literally a stretch. But
well, Irish Catholic families back in the day were known for having a shit ton of kids.
Yes.
Some of them as many as 12 to 14. Because they didn't believe in birth control, and the only time some of them were fucking was to make a baby. So dad's just like, well, fuck it, I'm dumping my cum and hoping for the best.
Well, you know, when everything was a sin, even, you know, sex, it was kind of surprising that be fruitful and multiply was taken so literally for them.
And one of these podcasts, I forget the name, I don't know the host name, I think it's Melvin. He's this, I'd say he's medium brown. He looks like he might be a mix of black and Hispanic. And he always has on groups of OnlyFans girls. And they're trying to rationalize how, well, this is how I'm making my money. And I'm setting up my future. And he's always like, but guys want a girl that hasn't been with a bunch of dudes or that hasn't shown their shit all over the internet. So you're looking at short-term financial gain and hurting yourself in prospects when you want to settle down. Oh, you want to get married or you want to have kids? Well, you've been straight up host status for how many years now? And those nudie pics could live on the internet forever. And your kids have to worry about that shit. So you're harming your ability to actually get what you would want down the line when you've matured. And it's almost like there's that whole fear of missing out.
Okay, that's a huge part in society, yeah.
But maybe it's not bad to miss out, you know? Something that I see come up repeatedly on the comment sections attached to these videos, especially that guys when they're talking about body count, is women vehemently defending that it's nobody's business, you shouldn't ask, it doesn't matter, they're with you now, so the past is the past. And then you'll get these guys that I like to call beta cucks.
Yeah.
They're like, it doesn't matter and you shouldn't ask, you should just love the person that you're with. And I'm like, well, that's very fine for you in an idealistic and unrealistic fashion. But instead of you trying to white knight and score brownie points, let's be honest. If a chick has banged dozens of dudes, oh my God, are you going to be like, "Urgh." And I've banged some chicks that have been with lots of dudes.
The Beast
has been with lots of dudes. That she probably gifted me an almost NFL game day size roster of Eskimo brothers I will never know.
Oh, sure.
And I didn't know like the full extent of it when we first got together. By then I'd already knocked her up. So it's like, well, fuck, I'm stuck with this bitch. But again, like...
Would that number have deterred you in the early on?
Oh my God, yes. On top of the fact of what she's really like. And we're going to do another episode after this that's going to play into that concept that we'll get more into.
Sure.
The other thing, besides the whole it's nobody's business, I got into an argument with some people. There was a video of a female comedian bragging about how she really got it in her 20s. Like, she did well, and people are clapping, and some people are... And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. You're sitting here bragging about all the fucking you did, but at some point, you're going to be on the other side of the pendulum swing when all that independence and freedom that you were bragging about that you had stops you from getting something that you want, because a good man, a high-value male, is a term that's thrown around a lot of these podcasts, is not going to fucking want you. A rich guy, a well-to-do guy, a very handsome guy that's like an alpha male is not going to want a chick that's been run through by tons of people.
There are some, though. There are guys that want to be alpha males, and they want a trophy, right? They want that girl that's been so noticed and coveted, and like, no, I got her now. She's mine. Right?
Yeah, but she's a plaything. I don't think she's a keeper. It's a catch and release.
Right, exactly. And that's why nothing seems to be long-term for them, or probably not a whole lot of good options out there.
So again, women arguing with me over this. How could you talk like that? It doesn't matter what her body count is. You wouldn't know just by looking at her. I'm like, I wouldn't, but I would know when she walks by me in a skirt and the wind whistles as she walks. Which was a joke, but honestly, you can say I wouldn't know just by looking at somebody, but I think if you've been with a chick that's a total hoe, there's something in that whole hot dog down a hallway euphemism.
Sure.
Those chicks, your pussy does get stretched out. The elastic, like a sock, will wear out eventually. Just like a woman who's had a bunch of kids, like an Irish Catholic woman back in the day, is going to have a fucking windsock of a pussy.
You don't say.
It just happens. Your body changes. You take all those dicks. You can't tell me that Mia Khalifa now, after the porn she did, has a vagina that's anywhere near the state that it was in before she did porn.
I don't know. Maybe there's exercises they can do.
You can Kegel till you are fucking half dead. There's no fucking way you're going to make up for taking an army of giant Pringles can-sized dicks.
Yeah. So here's what gets me about this march to reclaim power. If you thought it was crude for people to do in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s to brag about their body count, why would you do it now to reclaim it, right? Why would you brag about it now? If it was crude then, why perpetuate it? Right? If it was disgusting behavior then, why perpetuate it? You're right. On some level, it really shouldn't matter what the number is, but it does.
It fucking does. And it's funny because the thing that comes up the most is they'll say, men who ask or who care are insecure. And to that I say, nice fucking try, because it's not insecurity, bitch. They're called standards.
Well, I was going to say, I think everybody has a spectrum, right, on what they consider a lot.
Or what's acceptable to them. It's all on a person-by-person basis of what you're willing to lay to rest. And if you're
that's
able
what I was getting at. Yeah.
to compartmentalize the fact that you're with a chick that's been with 17 other dudes, if that doesn't bother you because it was years ago before she was with you, you're emotionally mature enough to say, it doesn't matter now, I'm with her, we're working on us.
Right.
But also, what if one of the guys she fucked is somebody you know, and even worse, you can't fucking stand?
Well, the thing is nobody ever really knows where that spider web of Eskimo brothers and sisters are, right? You know, we don't know. If there's even one person in that connection that was one of those types of people that slept with 30 others, right? Mm-hmm. You've all become Eskimo related, right? And can we actually say that?
I don't give a shit. We're saying it.
All right. I think that might be
I'm
offensive.
not going to fucking sit here and worry about using uncouth terms that have gone into passe/offensive territory. And I'm going to call things gay again because comedian Shane Gillis gave us that back recently. And I'm also going to continue to use the word retard like I've never stopped. And if I have to drop the N-bomb referentially, that somebody said the N-bomb, I'm going to do so without going N-word, N-bomb.
I forgot where I was going on this.
The web of connectivity and Eskimo bros.
Right. So you really never know how many people you've gotten indirect contact with, so to say.
Well, as the saying used to go was, when you sleep with somebody, you're sleeping with everyone they've slept with.
Right, exactly, right? And just kind of let your mind think about that and if it were to map it out on paper, right, what that actually looks like. So, you know, I think if both people have roughly the same number of partners, right, or are comfortable with it, type of thing, I don't think there's a problem. The number doesn't really matter. But when you have a disparity, or if you have, let's say, a porn star or some like these OnlyFans gals, that's an excessive number. I don't see many people being able to be, oh, I'm perfectly fine with that. And yes, I'm the modern man, or I'm the modern, partner, if maybe female, right? That wouldn't have some level of geez in the back of their mind.
Now,
right?
I'm going to drop a name here. Asa Akira. Do you know who she is?
I don't.
She is a porn star.
Okay.
And she recently, I saw, broke down how many guys she has been with, to the best of her recollection. And by the time she was done, I think it was 500 guys.
Okay.
And she based it upon, or 500 people. That
Sure.
includes girls.
Yep, I was going to say that's only fair.
So
Yep.
she started off with doing a few solo scenes, then girl on girl, then girl on guy, then girl with multiple people. And she made
Okay.
how many
The
fucking
progression.
movies until she got super successful and popular. And now she doesn't have to do porn anymore. And she does a lot of solo shit and masturbating videos and
still
nude
porn,
pics.
but yeah.
It's still porn.
But not hardcore, I guess.
But if you are strictly taking nude photos of yourself, there's almost an artistic slant to it in terms of societal acceptability versus you're on film getting fucked repeatedly by all kinds of different people.
Right.
500 people. Do you even know 500 people? And I'm not talking about somebody that you worked with that you kind of said hi to now and again back in
Right.
the day at Menards that you're Facebook friends with. I mean, do you know 500 people? I don't think most people do.
I mean, you could think maybe your graduating class, some of us who lived in areas that had decent-sized schools, and if you knew some of the upperclassmen, that would be the only time I could think of maybe I could get to know a few hundred people or say, yeah, I know them or know of them, or I could pick them out of a lineup, so to say. But you're right. Yeah, that's insane. And how do you even remember any one of those faces, or how are any of them real memorable to you? This reminds me back in the day. Do you remember Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain?
Yeah,
in
what was
his
it,
book?
25,000 women?
I thought it was 10,000. I thought it was somewhere in the ballpark. It was either way, astronomical, right? Like when you're talking about the number of women he must have been sleeping with. It had to be like 3-4 a night, for years.
Wilt Chamberlain claimed to have slept with 20,000 women during his life. In the book, Wilt Larger Than Life.
There you go. I was wrong. You were absolutely right. So 20,000. 20,000.
And unfortunately,
there's not
Gene
enough
Simmons
time.
of KISS tried to outdo that number because Gene Simmons has some sort of fucking inferiority complex. Now, I don't like to play the insecurity card,
guy's
but there's
disgusting.
something seriously fucking wrong with Gene Simmons that he had to brag about all the pussy he got to say he was getting more than Wilt Chamberlain. And then what did it really get him? His wife, Shannon Tweed, almost left him for it.
Right. I was going to say,
When
wasn't
they
he
were
bragging?
just boyfriend and girlfriend, they were domestic partners. She almost left him over that shit, and then he proposed, and that's how they got married finally.
Yeah. I
It's
was
because
gonna
he had
say.
to buckle down that she's like, fuck you, Gene. Don't remind me of all the pussies.
Yeah.
But that's perfectly right there. There is the reverse dynamic where a woman goes, you piece of shit. How fucking dare you brag about it?
Yeah.
Which takes me to the next part of this episode. Very important here.
Okay.
What initially made me want to rant about this shit is I saw something that said, if you kiss and tell, it's misogynistic. Because men that brag about who they've been with, it's basically you're being sexist, you're slut-shaming, you're demonizing, and also, what's the fucking word? You're basically treating women like objects. You're objectifying women.
Objectifying, yeah. So women have never bragged back and forth? They've never discussed or have gossiped or kiss and tell?
That's neither here nor there. It's just the main principle is if you kiss
I
and
don't-
tell, it's lowbrow, it's low
But
class,
when you
you're
say
a
it's
shitty person.
misogynistic, you basically...
I know.
Okay.
I know.
That's,
So you're saying that it's bad for men to talk about the women they've been with. And to that, I'm like, you tried to play the Uno reverse card with the psychology, and I'm calling bullshit on this because there's one reason I can think of why women wouldn't want men to talk about who they've been with, is you're a woman who's been with a lot of men. And if one guy talks about if he's been with you, maybe somebody else he knows or somebody hears about, hey, did you hear so-and-so fuck so-and-so? And he's like, I fucked her too. And eventually what you got, like you were talking about the web of Eskimo bros, you've got all these guys that realize they're interconnected. And you don't want them to talk to one another because this woman wants to keep her reputation intact. She doesn't want to be known as a hoe. When in reality, she's got like a half a dozen guys or more that all realize they all fucked the same chick. And you don't want them to know because you're afraid they're going to like band together and start a kickball team or something. Then they're all going to become super friends.
So I've got a little bit of a story here, and
Go
bear
on.
with me here. I think I'm safe to tell this one, and I'll tell it in kind of still remote terms. So years ago, there was this gal I knew at work. She was like a sister to me, but she was one of those types of gals, and she slept around a bit. In fact, when we first started working at the place, she was actually pregnant, 18 and pregnant, with a kid that she ended up giving up for adoption.
Jesus.
She then bounced around with multiple guys at this place because there was, 125 employees, so a few of them were within that same age range, just out of high school, young guys, right? But I never once touched her, never thought about it, right? Because I saw that, and I didn't want that, right? Like, that wasn't the type of girl I wanted, because I saw she would go through a guy, and then it would turn quickly, and she would get mad if her exes started getting chummy type of thing, or if, one guy that she had slept with for like, a couple days, 1 week, was talking to a guy that she'd had a fling with for a few weeks, a couple months ago, right? And she'd just get pissed.
I'm going to assume it's because she didn't want people to know she was doing it, but I don't know how you can expect to partake in those types of behaviors and acting with reckless disregard for your own safety and reputation, and the word's not going to get out.
It's almost like she's not smart enough. So she's getting mad that she's not smart enough to I don't know, either not be that way or cover her tracks. I don't know what it is, but it's just like the same thing with a guy. If a guy was, trying to pull multiple women out of a pool, and, if you're not delicate, it's going to blow up.
So imagine back in the day, you're a guy and you're like a player, as we used to call them, and you fuck one chick. And then when you're with her, you try to fuck one of her friends. You test the waters there. Or you break up and you move on to one of her friends. Right. Or maybe even a sister.
Oh, Jesus.
That shit happens.
Yeah.
That's going to blow up in your fucking face.
Yeah, you're playing with fire.
And as much as they want to say men shouldn't talk about women and who they've been with, I would also say that women shouldn't then talk about the men they've been with, because it goes back to guys that are with tons of chicks that they think, oh, I'm such a man, I've been with all these chicks. Dude, you're fucking gross.
Right. We could sit here and sound like two middle-aged men not understanding the way the world works, but there's still,
there's consequences to having loose morals
too. Right. There's always there's always supposed to have been this level of decorum as well, and respectability, and trying to carry ourselves a certain way, right? If you're going to open that door to talk about it, you got to expect some flack for it then too, right?
Or some people that might have been interested in you before are no longer interested in you. And that bit me because I talked about one or two gals I'd been with in the past in a joking nature. But in reality, anybody that wants to tell me you shouldn't talk about that, you'd speak poorly about your exes, it's like, well, I was with them. It's my life. These are my experiences. And it's not fair for you to tell me I can't discuss them out of respect for someone that's no longer in my life. And if it ended poorly, why do I owe her any sort of consideration whatsoever? Even if it makes me look like a misogynist and like I'm bitter, I don't fucking care, because this happened to me. I have the right to talk about it. And it's not up to you to tell me that I shouldn't. But it's okay, I'm saying, for you to gauge the quality of the way I discuss these other human beings, to then judge the content of my character and emotional security and maturity based upon how I relay the information as I've introspectively kind of rethought of it after the fact.
Right.
That kissing and telling is going beyond disrespectful, that it's misogynistic. It has nothing to do with hating women. It has everything to do with just talking about where you've been and what you've done. I think to most people, reasonable people is the standard. To say that all men that care about a woman's body count are insecure is a massive overcorrection. You want to make us feel petty for caring about what you did, because deep down, you're projecting that you're insecure about what you've done and how you've been viewed, and maybe you have remorse.
Yeah, that can go both ways, right?
I started off by saying that my number, non-specifically, is something I'm not proud of.
Right. You don't want to state it.
I would state it, but I don't want to get hung up on the number.
No. But what I'm saying is most of the time, if people are asking, it's not like you're saying it proudly, right?
Yeah.
You'd almost kind of say it with a little regret. And that's understandable, too, because you get to a certain point in your life and you realize, that number is up there a little bit. But I think everybody kind of peaks sexually at different times, though, too, right? And to just go balls to the wall and 22 people in 14 days. It's like, how do you, I don't know.
How did she shower in between them?
I mean, this was one hell of a hostel. Maybe it was one of those things where she somehow got in on a Amsterdam orgy, and it was like 8 of them were right there. You know what I mean? It like didn't really count. They were just in the room.
Let me see if I can manifest this. Woman brags about sleeping with 22 men in 10 days.
Okay, so 2.2 a day.
It's just like slut shamed. Well, no shit. Goes viral for bragging about it. And it's like, your face is attached to this.
Right.
And here's another instance of Gen Z not knowing to keep their life off the internet. Because I'll tell you something.
That's more what I think about this story than anything else.
I have a friend. That friend has another friend.
Right.
That other friend got out of a long-term relationship of 6-7 years.
Okay.
And immediately started playing the field.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Of dicks. Woo! And it wasn't like, hey, let's date around and see if I can find love. It's basically, it's like they were trying to fill this fucking hole in their heart.
With dick.
With dick. How well do you remember the movie Boondock Saints?
Oh, pretty well. I still have it.
Okay, so when Rocco's talking to that one chick, he's like, I can't walk through the parking lot of a convenience store without running into 9 guys' dicks who you've sucked. And she starts crying.
Yep.
Everything about that interaction in that scene is a microcosm of this entire episode. Is man looks at woman with reputation for being whore, tells her she's a whore, she cries because she feels bad for being a whore, and anybody that would tell her, don't worry about what he says. It's your body. It's your choice. You should be proud of who you are. Just like when we tell morbidly obese women who are spilling out of swimsuits with pockets of fat, you go, girl, even though you're going to die of a massive coronary in your fucking 40s, and you're like the Michelin man's wife. Ugh, patui.
You do you. Become a drain on the healthcare system and die early. And
Here's my final thoughts. It's okay to ask if you're with someone because you're curious. But sometimes you get answers to your question that you don't like and you can't reconcile with.
Well, and let's be honest, too. Back in the day, people would just lie, right? You case-by-case instance. You got to figure out if truth is good in that instance or not, right?
Yeah, if you want a classy gal to like you, but you fucked one too many hoes hooking up and one-nighters, you're going to lie about that, and she'll never know, because what are the odds they're going to bump into each other back in the day before the internet and all that shit?
But if you're going to get married, yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah. I'm going to end the episode with one of my favorite examples of the body count conversation. So the quote is from the movie Clerks.
Yep.
Dante is behind the counter with his girlfriend, and they start talking about her body count. It gets out that she sucked 37 dicks. And he's like, 37? You sucked 37 dicks? She's like, what? I haven't slept with that many people, though. It used to be that I'd date a guy for a while. If I liked him, I'd go down on him. But I wouldn't really sleep with people unless I really cared about them. He's like, but I'm 37? She's like, which if you really examine it means that I've been faithful to you and you're the last person I've been with. And then she gets pissed off and storms out of the convenience store. Mm-hmm. And then he turns to another guy and goes, 37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks. The other guy goes, in a row? Which has turned into a pop culture meme. That movie came out in, I think, 97 or 98.
Yep. Actually...
Was it before that? Was it 95 or 96?
Yeah, because Mallrats was more like 97. Yeah, 98.
Okay, well, the point being is that Dante had a hard time reconciling in his mind that even though he loved this girl and wanted to marry her, that she sucked 37 dicks. Now, if you're fucking a chick who's been with a bunch of dudes, and when you're with her, at some point it may creep into your mind, oh, God, when she asked me to do something, who was the first guy that did it to her that she decided she liked it so much that now she's fucking requesting it?
Oh, yeah. There are those thoughts that go through your head. They have, at least maybe some of our heads. But yeah, if she's doing it for me, who else has she done it for?
And even though like a bunch of time has passed and she's obviously brushed her teeth and mouthwashed and this, that, and the other and eaten food, you're still thinking about kissing a mouth that 36 other dicks have been in.
Yeah.
That's a lot of dicks. That's like a fucking Nathan's hot dog contest on the 4th of July amounts of dicks. That's so many dicks. And now think of you marry that woman and she kisses your kids goodnight on the forehead with that mouth that has graced 37 dicks.
That's why you don't find out the number sometimes.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jman.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.